everyone, it me, Michael Osinski.
And also me, Tyler Esselman.
And you are listening to, when you put the two of us together, This One Goes to 11.
That's right, when you combine one Michael Osinski and one Tyler Esselman, you get a podcast called This One Goes to 11. The more you know, right? That's on the periodic table of elements. What we do on this podcast is we invite a friend, a family member, a member of our community, somebody we barely know, and we give them a task. Their task is to present to us an album that they believe is perfect.
So perfect, in fact, that 10 out of 10 just isn't good enough.
We know they have 10 albums, but we want 11
yeah.
albums. We want the 11s.
I gotta tell you, Tyler, we gotta record more intros late at night when we're tired, because this is a hoot here. But anyway,
this is quality.
Anyway,
it only gets better, right?
We're gonna win a Poddy, right? That's the podcast awards. Poddy, Poddy.
If it's not, it should be.
It doesn't sound like any other word. It only sounds like Poddy. Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Anyway, I should tell our listeners about our guest this week.
Our guest is great. Our guest is a wonderful, just a good hang, this person. And I was very happy to have been introduced to them. Michael, who did we talk to this week?
We talked to Ange Bay. Ange Bay is an incredibly talented Philadelphia-based theater artist. And when we say artist, we mean artist across the board. You name it, they've probably done it. A rising writer at Azuka Theater, co-artistic director of Shoebox Theater Collective, a costume designer, a director, and one hell of a performer. Side note, I was totally supposed to see them in a production of Lynn Nottage's Fabulation last summer, starring opposite season 2 guest Kashia Nixon, but I got sick and missed it, and I feel gosh darn terrible about that. But anyway, I digress. To use their own words, Ange is committed to the transformative power of storytelling. They create to inspire decolonization, honesty, radical empathy, and intra-community healing. In all ways, it is their mission to build utopia through the embrace of experimentation and play. That's Ange. I mean,
oh my gosh,
this album was a gift to us, I think.
Yeah. And fits very much with Ange. Like I feel like I can see this album. I can see the connective tissue there. And you know that mission statement that they had it could fit very well with this artist. I hope they get the chance to work together someday.
Oh yeah, there's some clear overlap between this artist and Ange. Why don't we let you learn more about that? Let's get right to the episode, shall we? Ange Bay, welcome to This One Goes to 11.
Ooh, thank you for having me.
We are so glad to have you. I just so you know, I've already shared we've already shared your bio with our listeners, but I just have to state again that I regret that I did not get to see you in Fabulation in Philadelphia before I left, because I heard that you were fantastic. So
thank you. Yeah, that was one of my favorite roles ever. Magical
good.
Process.
I nothing but praise I heard from everyone who saw you.
Oh, that's so sweet. Oh.
But
thanks,
let's all of our theatrically minded listeners based in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So since this is a music album podcast, the question is, what album hath thou brought before the tribunal today?
Oh, well, none other than the one and only Dirty Computer by Miss Janelle Monae.
Yes.
Yes. Perfect album.
Not the first time someone has suggested this one on the podcast.
I'm glad I got it then.
Yeah.
For sure.
This one has been at least a couple times.
I think so, yeah. I mean, honestly, I think the person who nominated this one also nominated, to give it away who this person is, nominated Purple Rain and Lemonade. So it was sort of like, oh boy, how do you... Out of those three.
That trifecta. Oh my God.
I think they call that an embarrassment of riches.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
They might call that, yeah.
A fool's errand trying to choose between
we'll get through, and I'm, God willing, we'll get through all of them. That's the hope. You do this long enough, then you just kind of we're gonna catch all of these ones that people are bringing up.
So before we start talking about this album, before you make your case, there's a very important segment that we have to cover here. Tyler insists that it's everyone's favorite segment.
Okay.
I don't think I'm the one insisting. It's everyone that's saying
I haven't seen the numbers. I haven't seen the facts and figures yet. And, I like people to show their work, Tyler. So
the objective truth. Because
exactly.
we all know that exists.
Right. Don't even get me started. But this segment is called The Beginner's Guide to Janelle Monae's Dirty Computer in 60 Seconds.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. So Tyler is going to have a minute to try and educate our listeners on who Janelle Monae is and what Dirty Computer is. And then you, Ange, get to rate his performance using whatever scale you choose. If you want to go a traditional, A to F, or, 0 to 10, or we've had people use colors.
Cool.
It's whatever scale you deem necessary.
I think 1 to 10 pompadours is what I'll say.
Ooh,
okay,
yes.
Nice. We know what we're dealing with then.
All right, well, Tyler, are you ready for this?
I was born ready, Michael.
All right, well, 60 seconds on the clock, starting in 3, 2, 1, go.
Janelle Monae, a musician, writer, actor, activist, time traveler, android extraordinaire, and incomparable wearer of tuxedos. Ooh. Born and raised in Kansas City, Kansas, Monae was a born music fanatic. She honed her chops singing at her local Baptist church and writing her own musicals. The theatrical inclination took her to New York after high school, but it was in Atlanta where she began making her own demos and selling them out of the back of her Mitsubishi Galant, a solid car, by the way. It wasn't long before Big Boy of Outkast fame caught a whiff and slid one of those demos across his buddy Sean Puff Daddy Combs' desk. Monae signed to Combs' Bad Boy Records and introduced herself to the world with a bang. Monae's early albums took the form of an epic sci-fi story following her alter ego Cindy Mayweather, a messianic android living in a futuristic city of Metropolis, fighting back against the city's repressive regime. Her third studio album, Dirty Computer, took those same themes, but stripped back the metaphor a bit to creating a dazzling record that critics called unblushingly and unsparingly direct, the perfect celebration of queerness, female power, and self-worth. And to that I say, hell yes.
Nice.
All right. That was pretty good, Tyler. Coming in right at the wire there.
I'm trying to I'm trying to push the envelope on that limit right there. I want to butt right up against it.
I appreciated the whole swath of her journey from growing up and getting under Diddy's clutches, getting in his clutches.
Yes, yeah, under that umbrella.
Figures all up in her story.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, I would say 8 out of 10 pompadours.
8 out of 10 pompadours.
Yeah,
excellent.
Yeah, the only thing I would add is she is an Afrofuturist icon, and she's just been such a revolutionary in a lot of ways, and not just her musical sort of composing and music and lyrics and all the things that she does with melody and stuff, but for the Black community, I think she's really a revolutionary and really pioneering the platform that we have as Black queer artists to express ourselves in music. And that's been happening for as long as humanity has existed. Black queer people have existed, but I feel the emotion picture especially was something that really made an impact back in 2018, and it's really set the precedent for a lot of imagery now that we see in pop music.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I mean, then she also since she has the platform, I mean, I feel like she seems to have a good sense of her responsibility in some ways, I guess.
Yeah.
I think maybe, again, I'm not going to speak for her, but it feels like she realizes how much of an audience she can reach, and she's choosing to do good with that as opposed to evil, right? So many superstars who and performers who get that platform, she's doing something with it seems like.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I think this album especially is the most conscious of her work, and all of her work is conscious, right? And all of the definitions of that word. She's a conscious rapper, a conscious musician, but just conscious in where she lands in the zeitgeist, and she has a real responsibility. I really feel she understands her responsibility as a thinker, as a thought leader, as well as a musician.
I'm gonna get some points on your board then. Let's give you 600 points for responsibility as a thought leader, because that is, that I hear that term. I've heard that term more and more in the last few years, but I love attributing it to Janelle, because it really feels like she comes at that from each and every angle she can. So love that one.
Oh, thanks. Cool.
So before we start talking more specifically about Janelle, though, we'd love to hear some more about you, Ange. We'd like to start this conversation a lot of times with a very general question, but one that we hope can kind of bubble up some good stuff for you. How would you say music exists in your life? What relationship do you have to music?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. I think it's in my bones. It's like in my DNA. My parents have exquisite music tastes, and they were like very supportive of. I have a younger sister who's basically like my twin, like an Irish twin, 9 months apart. But we did a lot of like performing arts as kids, and I just remember both of my parents like picking us up and taking us to practice various practices with just like, Al Green in the background, like on the radio, like not even on the radio, on CDs. Remember when CDs were in cars?
Yes.
Yeah, Al Green, Prince, all of Motown, anyone from Motown, so I grew up really having a strong sense of rhythm and music and specifically like the Black greats. I knew all that music before I knew any of the stuff like contemporarily on the radio when we started playing the radio.
And you really loved it at that time. That wasn't like you weren't fighting against it. You were in on that, because we talked to some people who kind of resist their parents' music taste. But it sounds like it was something that you loved from the start.
Yeah, I had no choice, I think. Yeah, sure. I had no choice in the matter. Yeah, very strong parenting, and like music was like a hard line. Like, you're gonna listen to our music. It's a funny question. I never thought about like if I disliked or resisted my parents' music tastes. No, and that's like, I think that's a very like beautiful thing, and like very specific to my upbringing in like West Philadelphia, and like my like Black ass family, like in family reunions we all played the same music. It's just like a common language. My parents' music taught me how to dance, and like I've been a dancer for most of my life, and without Motown specifically and all of the cool fun steps that you do at the line dances at parties and cookouts. Like, I don't think I could dance as well as I'm a great dancer. I don't know. Professional party dancer. That's the fun fact on my resume I ever had.
Wait. Hold
that is
on a second.
Important skill to have.
You mean like the kind of, because that could mean. Wait. Okay. Hold on a second. Let me start again. You mean like
you got really excited?
Because I've heard of people who like get hired to like dance at bar mitzvahs and things to like get people. Is that what you mean? Like that?
I mean that I was a go-go dancer at the Trestle Inn.
Or
in
that
Philadelphia.
Too. Yes.
Yeah, and like hired to be it's 60s go-go dance, very like mod. My name was Sherry Amore, like the Stevie Wonder song Sherry Amore.
Yeah.
Oh my
god. Okay, you get 2,000 points for that. Come on.
Thank you. It was a good time. Yeah, by the way, plugging the Trestle Inn, great music. If you are interested in all the throwback hits.
All these Philly things, I really need to get back.
Yeah, Philly's the fucking best. Yeah.
What a good town.
Yeah, what a great town.
It's lucky that your parents had the good taste and that you had no choice, I will say, though, because it makes you wonder how some people's terrible tastes get started. It's probably because their parents required them to listen to the bad stuff. Yeah.
I mean, and my partner is a beautiful white man, and he has great music taste too. His parents' music were like Aerosmith and Bruce Springsteen and like all of that stuff. So I understand, rock and roll. We had two different kind of rock and roll upbringings that then intersected at like Jimi Hendrix and Prince and all of the things. And so it's so interesting to think about like music history and how that's intertwined with like generational music tastes.
There's a thesis to be written there.
Well, I think too sometimes that our musical tastes are often the modern extension of our parents sometimes. Like I know my dad liked Pink Floyd.
Oh, Pink Floyd. That's
and I like Radiohead now, which I sort of feel is like the modern extension of that. And like my dad would listen to The Who sometimes. And I feel like Pearl Jam was a band that I listened to a lot growing up. And they feel like that's like the next extension of that in some ways. So
I like that insight. Yeah.
I'm going to give you 99 points for that. There, Michael, you get some points.
I get points today.
Lucky you. I must miss you a lot because I'm giving you points now.
I like the points. Is it like whose line is it anyway?
The points are made up, but they definitely matter.
They definitely matter. Okay,
that's actually a pretty good comparison.
That isn't meant to be shade. Just
no. That is. I would say our point giving style is very much influenced by whose line is it anyway.
Fantastic.
And I say our. I mean mine.
Yeah.
Influence. Did you hear that? Influence. We're not stealing.
Exactly. No copyrights being violated here. Well, do you remember how and when, or like how you discovered this album in particular? Had you already been a Janelle Monae fan, or was this the album that brought you to her?
I have always had sort of like Janelle Monae in my periphery vision. I remember seeing her perform at one of the VMAs or like an MTV Music Awards or something back when it was still being broadcast on like television. You couldn't find clips online on YouTube. Mm-hmm. And I remember her in a suit with her giant pompadour, and it was like a completely black and white set. And I was like, I remember thinking, this is a Prince impersonator and also a man. And then she started singing. And I was like, wait. No idea what song it was. It was definitely from like her older albums. This had to been like 2011 or something. I actually roundabout way started to listen to her music when I discovered her as an actor. I saw her in Hidden Figures, and I did a very cool thing where I was able to go to Sundance and like meet Octavia Spencer, and she like did a screening of Hidden Figures and started like talking about it, and I was like, that's fucking Janelle Monae. That's the same Janelle Monae that I thought was a Prince impersonator back in like 2011 or whatever, playing this very cis woman, black woman who was like a figure from history. I thought that was so cool. And then Moonlight too, and I was like, wow, she's transformative. Like these are like, and that was the first word I think I could like attribute to her, and like transformative, and also like she's really a Renaissance person. And I think I was like on her Wikipedia page or something, just like reading up more about her, and started listening to her music that way. Like all of the singles, that like charted on Billboard, that's where I started. And when she released Dirty Computer, that was groundbreaking for me. It was like the tectonic plates of who I was or thought I was as like a human being just like shifted in a really, really seismic way. And I was never the same. And I know that sounds dramatic, but you have to imagine where I was at when I discovered this album. And the motion picture. The motion picture is actually what I watched first.
Oh, yeah, because it came out a little bit beforehand, right? Well, before I ask that question, I do need to tell you I gave you some points. You got 400 points for talking about how she's transformative and a Renaissance person. That is I feel like that's such a key element to her. But let's talk about the motion picture. I love this expanded universe of Janelle Monae that she has created, and even in the stuff that is not related to it, you feel it in her energy. You feel to me, I can feel the android in her performance in Hidden Figures. I can feel that kind of like otherworldliness, and that probably has to do with the fact that just what you were saying, how she's such a kind of beacon of like modern Afrofuturism.
Mm-hmm. And she refuses to be like boxed in, and then that's that's like all of what Dirty Computer is about. Like I guess in the most elementary way of putting it, but. I think that's so cool. And as an artist who, like myself, I don't want to be boxed in. And, it's just very inspirational to see that she's doing that and doing it so well. And she has a lot of care for every single medium art that she practices. And that is like really fucking cool and consistent.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
she's
I
consistent.
I rewatched the emotion picture today, and it's, I mean, first of all, also love Tessa Thompson, who's in that. Like,
Love Tessa Thompson.
it sort of feels like Tessa Thompson's got this niche like sci-fi thing going on with her being in Westworld and being like, I mean,
Yeah,
the whole emotion picture feels very very sci-fi.
for sure.
But it's, yeah, I mean, I think like it just feels like it makes me put this album up on the same level as something like Lemonade, in the sense that the visual imagery that goes with the music feels so, I mean, just like interlocked in a way that, like, inseparable. And the fact that, you know, she is an artist who thinks visually in addition to being a musical artist. You're right, like there is no box that can contain a Janelle Monae.
I'm like smiling at Tessa Thompson. Sometimes when I share pictures of Tessa Thompson on my Instagram story, which I am off to do, people are like, "Oh my God, I thought that was you." So I'm just going to pretend like I'm Tessa Thompson. It's my play cousin, which means that I had an affair with Janelle Monae or am dating her or whatever. But so that's awesome.
I mean,
was her accent, was her Philly accent in Creed pretty good too? I remember. I feel like it was.
I actually haven't seen any of the Creeds.
Oh, really? I just saw the first one, but I remember. I feel like it was notable that she did a pretty good Philly accent. And now knowing what the Philly accent is, I'm like, respect that you that detail. I think she said John at some point. You know, like I think I was like, there we go. Okay,
there's a checklist.
Yeah,
John.
There is, and the like the O sound. There's a very distinct. It's like O. It's it's there's multiple vowels going on within that O. But
you remember the first time you saw the emotion picture before? Do you remember what your first listen through of the album was like? Where you were, or you know, like how you listened to it?
Yeah, I remember it was 2018. I was in my senior year of college, or going into my senior year or junior year. I graduated in 2019, and it was like, college is fucking dramatic and traumatic. And I was in a queer fraternity, living in the queer house, going through all the drama, the most drama I've ever encountered in my life. I had like several lovers, and like, you know, the whole thing, like, oh, woe is me, whatever. And drama king. And all the while feeling like I was like living a double life. In a lot of ways was living a double life, because I was not out to my parents, and still in a lot of ways aren't. And coming out is weird. And I still felt like a lot of shame about my identity as like a queer Black person specifically. And there weren't a lot of queer Black people out on my campus, and also like non-binary in gender. And I felt like I was the only one for a while. And so I was really struggling. I was really, really struggling. I remembered that the motion picture was coming out, and we actually had planned a watch party of it. So we listened to it and watched it as a house, and that was just incredible. And I remember that very vividly. And then after viewing that, I just like remember walking around campus and just playing the album straight through. Anytime I had free time, like in between classes, mind you, it takes like 7 minutes to walk from one side of the campus to the other. So lots of stopping and starting, but it was just like really important for me to like listen to it all the way through. I think like Pink and what was that other song? Make Me Feel were released as singles before the full album dropped. So maybe I even like listened to those two songs before I even saw the emotion picture. But just like listening to the album, walking around campus, in the library, in my feels, like not really studying, listening to Janelle Monae really intensely.
That's studying in its own way.
Yeah, I think so too. Thank you. My grades would say otherwise, but you know.
Well, I remember that from college too. You know, you like a lot of the most important things for me in college as well were the music and movies and TV shows that my friends were introducing me to. So I think that it's certainly adding grist to your collegiate mill, just that kind of stuff too.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I started doing my hair in the pompadour. I had a big fro during that time in college, and it was dyed red. It was a mess. I was a mess. That's
your time to do it.
Everyone is you're becoming your best self in college. If anyone were their best self in college, then there would be no need for college.
True. Yeah. But yeah, that's where I was. I was being weird on campus, being the main character or the villain of my own story, which is I think Janelle would be proud of that.
It seems like, especially with the early albums in this kind of narrative that she was creating, I do think that the duality of good and evil is there for her. She's not. I think it's pretty remarkable how ubiquitous she is too, because I think "Make Me Feel." I heard that song constantly in 2018.
Yes, it's
a great song. It's good pop music, that's, we can talk more about genre and where we feel like she fits in. I think we're a healthy amount of skeptical of genre in general. Its place in our discourse, but I do think that there is an even though she is so commercially successful and has such this wide range of appeal, I get the feeling that it's not like I get the feeling that she has a "don't tell me what to do" thing about her. And I respect it.
I think she really dislikes authority.
That's
or is critical of it.
Pretty clear from the emotion picture that's the case.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like some very like Brave New World stuff going on in that. Emotion picture. It feels like, or one of those. I don't know. I'm.
That's a throwback. Yeah.
One of those works of great speculative fiction. It feels like she's well within that realm. But...
Some Giver-esque.
Ooh, yes.
The Giver was
definitely
another great one. Ooh. Yeah.
Well, dear listeners, just so you know, we'll post a link so you can watch the full emotion picture. Just heads up, you will need to sign into your Google account to see it because it is age restricted.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, I was gonna try and watch it on my TV, and it was like, log into your YouTube account. I was like, no, thank you, not on my television. I'll just do that on my computer.
We don't need all that. Yeah,
I guess it's pretty sexy, like the vagina pants. Is that why?
Maybe. I mean, there's also some F-bombs in the songs.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, we could have a much bigger conversation about how like talking about female sexuality is considered taboo in this country, whereas male everything is just sure, whatever, that's fine. But whatever, that's a whole, it's a different podcast.
Though interestingly, I was thinking about that as I re-listened to this album as well. I was like, I could play this while we're cooking Thanksgiving dinner. I think. And maybe that's something that it speaks more to the, to the openness of my family to,
Michael's
talking about
this. Michael's expression.
Not at my house, but maybe at yours. Yes,
I want to come over if you're playing that. That's awesome.
Well, the music is approachable. Like the actual instrumental music is so approachable in that way. It's party music. I think it's very easily could. See itself at a party.
It's funky.
It's funky.
Yeah.
It's good driving music. When do you find that you listen to this album most nowadays?
Traveling. Yeah. Still walking. Just and I'm bopping. There's no way I'm not moving. Literally moving my feet to get to a place. But it's just here's it's the in my bones thing. You just feel, especially the bass on Make Me Feel.
Yeah.
All the songs that were produced by Prince or allegedly produced by Prince.
I think they have to have been, right?
I mean, Make Me Feel. And some of the guitar on this album is it's so Prince, it's not even funny.
Yeah. And what a gift that they knew each other and appreciated each other.
Thank goodness for that.
Thank goodness. Yeah. Yeah, definitely walking music. Even around the house, but I don't spend a lot of time just in my house these days, unfortunately. I need more time just to listen and sit or dance.
Right. I wish that for you too. We got to have those periods. We got to have those periods where you can just be at home. And I find I think I do my best reading while traveling. But I think I do my best music listening at home. So I wish that for you soon.
Thank you. I received that.
Well, we asked you to pick a standout track from this album. So could you tell us what you've chosen and why you've chosen it?
God.
Did our listeners hear that eye roll? They might have heard your eyes rolling.
Jeez. Knew this was coming. Oh man. Okay. I think it's gonna be Pink.
Okay.
Pink. Nice.
I think it's Pink. It's one of the most tender songs on the album. And that song really opened up for me. Like it was like a blue check mark to like, it's okay to express your love for another sapphic person. Like just like listening to it. And it's so explicit too. Like it's pretty hard to misunderstand that song.
I'd say so.
Which is lovely. And especially in the emotion picture, I was like watching it today, and there is an extended sort of bridge, and it's just her and Tessa Thompson. I don't know Janelle Monae's pronouns, but I'm just defaulting to she, her.
I believe when I looked it up, her pronouns are she, they, and free ass motherfucker.
Oh, fuck. Free ass motherfucker? Yeah.
In fact, I think she might have started by saying free ass motherfucker first, but then also she and they.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it fits, right? It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I love
She's just cool. We're gonna give her just
infinite points.
6 million points.
Infinite points.
Yeah.
I love infinite.
Janelle, if you're listening, you get 6 million points.
Yes, and call me. My website is. I'm just kidding. Yeah, there's like this beautiful sort of breakdown where Janelle is like very intimately. It feels like poetry, like spoken word poetry. Like speaking to Tessa Thompson or the lover, the subject of the song. I was like crying on the bus, like just like watching it and listening to it. And it's not in the studio edit of the song. And I was like transported back to the time where I had seen that for the first time and how much that like meant to me that you can like profess your sapphic love. So explicitly. And the choreography of that moment too. I know this is not strictly a music podcast, but like mostly a music podcast, but like the visual component just really, really enhances the storytelling in a way that makes it my favorite song.
It was, I also remember this song being at the end of an episode of I May Destroy You on
that's
HBO.
A great show.
Oh wow!
Incredible,
Love Michaela
incredible
Cole.
show. Michaela Cole, definitely an artist. I have a great appreciation for these days, and the kind of marrying of Janelle and Michaela in that way was really that's a match made in heaven. If you ask me.
Yeah, and it's so like empowering of the effeminate, which I feel like Black women, I have a bone to pick about how people think Black women should be in the world. And I think, my first memory of Janelle Monae is as this like androgynous mask of center sort of like performer. And I feel like masculinity is projected onto Black women a lot. And this song is so feminine and so tender and so vulnerable. And Janelle is a powerhouse vocalist. We all know this. She sings the same very easy melody, sort of like a lullaby, like the whole song. And she doesn't need to raise her voice. She doesn't need to like, there's really no accoutrement like to the melody. And there's lots of beautiful things happening in like the synth and in the backing, but like, it's just so simple and deceivingly simple, and so tender and so just pink, like the color.
It feels pink, yeah.
It feels pink. And
like bubblegum, yeah.
And like, fuck yeah for that, I keep dropping the F-bomb. You can beat me out.
No.
Yeah. This will be one of
None of them are out of place.
Yeah, no.
You're going to have to log into your Google to access this. Age-restricted content.
For mature audiences only.
Well, why don't we let our listeners listen to Pink?
Yeah.
That's the end of part 1. If you access this episode via our YouTube playlist, you're about to hear our guest's standout track. If you'd like to jump ahead to part 2, you'll find a link in the description of this episode.